Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to go over two instances today where ChatGPT saved me a ton of time. I talked about how powerful ChatGPT is in a recent short video, and I thought this was the perfect way to show two examples in real life scenarios where ChatGPT not only helped me solve a problem that I otherwise didn't know how to fix, but ultimately saved me a ton of time in doing so. So the first instance, we just built a Shopify store for a client of ours. It looks beautiful, but they weren't thrilled with the buttons. So they went back to their designer who came up with a mock-up with some animations and some button fixes. And also, ultimately, this is what they mocked up for us. Now, for the majority of these, they're pretty simple hover effects. They have a couple of intricacies in the corner, but nothing too crazy. But in the middle section there, you see that they wanted a custom animation on a few of the buttons. And that gave me some pause, especially working in Shopify and what would ultimately be Shopify's coding language, Liquid. I was a little bit apprehensive on how I was going to build this out, how long this was going to take me. And so my manager approached me, said, hey, what do you think of this? They would like your thoughts on whether this is A, doable, and B, how long it would take. So again, I was a little apprehensive. I wasn't sure how I was going to accomplish that, and certainly wasn't sure how long it would take me. So I went to ChatGPT and basically described the issue and said, hey, I had a client approach me about adding buttons that he has on his Shopify site. He wants to change them up. I described what he wants to do of them. I actually have some custom instructions for ChatGPT to kind of be devil's advocate and be honest rather than kissing butt all the time. And it was very honest. It said, this is terrible for usability. It's going to be distracting. But you asked how to build it, not whether it's smart. So here's how we'd go. And that's the nuts and bolts of dealing with any client, right? It's not necessarily whether or not it's smart. You can obviously go to them and say, hey, that's not a great idea. But in this instance, I don't think it's really that bad for usability. It's just something I wasn't sure how I was going to implement. It then began kind of giving me the rough CSS setup and gave me all these pieces. This is what the CSS would look like. And it kind of gave me some devil's advocate. It says accessibility might get worse. It might be a little janky on small screen sizes. But then it asked this question: would you like me to mock up a super fast code pen? And that is a perfect idea. I said, yes, please go ahead. And if you click into this, this is what it spit out for me. So I was able to go into CodePen and create a custom project just for this button. And I took what ChatGPT had given me, pasted it in here, and this is exactly what the client was looking for. Now, to be perfectly honest, this was not the first attempt. Actually, I was shocked at how good the first attempt was. It was only missing this little corner caret on the right-hand side here. So I did go through a few iterations with it. I said, hey, I need this in the bottom right-hand corner. It said, cool, we can make that happen. And it went through and gave me the CSS to make that happen. We made a few more code pins, and it did take a couple iterations where I pasted in, where I made some tweaks and said, hey, I've got it a little bit closer. This is where I'm at right now. And I pasted it back to it. It made some edits and gave it back to me. And ultimately, we wound up with this situation where it's perfect. So I can send this to the client and say, yes, this is doable. This is what it would look like. And the client is thrilled with that. The second part of that was my manager came to me as part of the initial proposal and said, how long would this take? And I am the worst at estimating how long a function or a project would take. I hate kind of being in that time frame where if I tell a client, especially as a freelancer, if I tell a client, hey, I think it'll take 5 hours, something comes up and then it takes 15, then I either have to go back to the client and say, hey, this is actually going to take a lot longer than I thought. So the client is disappointed because they just have extra costs now and it's going to take them longer than they wanted. Or if I go to the client and give myself a big buffer and say, yeah, this will take 15 hours to complete, they may not want to wait that long. They may not want to incur that cost, and they may go somewhere else. So I'm not very good at it. That's something I need to improve on. But with ChatGPT, I literally had it do it for me. So I came back into it. I sent it this screenshot that I showed you and said, hey, my last question is, I've attached a screenshot of this. Can you give me a rough estimate on how long it would take to go through and make these changes? Just assume that the buttons currently look like normal everyday buttons. And it went through, it told me exactly what it sees in the screenshot. It gives me the assumptions that it's making as it goes through this time estimate, and then it breaks it down. Talks about an hour being for the auditing and categorizing the buttons so that you can lump them into different groups and different classes. Building the CSS would take 1.5 to 2 hours. Adding in the icons that it saw in that screenshot would take maybe 30 minutes to an hour. Testing it would take an hour, and an edge case cleanup would take 30 minutes. So total estimate would be 4 to 6 hours. It also gave you some potential time sinks that it sees happening and offers to write up a dev scope version of this that we can send to the client or to my boss, detailing that exact breakdown. So I didn't take it up on that, but that's a perfect example. I now have a decent breakdown that I can send to my boss and say, hey, this might take less time thanks to ChatGPT, but I would like to buffer in maybe 4 to 6 hours. If we go back to the client and say, hey, this only took us 2.5 or 3 hours, they're thrilled because their cost and time just got cut in half. But if it takes that extra time, then they already have that expectation set. The second example I had was actually a critical error on a website, and this happened this morning. My manager came to me and said, hey, a customer reached out to us. They can't access their website. The front end looks fine, but if they try to go into the admin area, it throws a critical error. Could you take a look at it? And with ChatGPT, I was literally able to fix it and send it back to him that it was ready to go in 7 minutes. And all I had to do was go into our hosting platform, find the PHP logs for that website. It was, of course, throwing a fatal error. I plugged that into ChatGPT, and I was lucky. The actual error was very verbose. It told me exactly where the issue was, but I pasted this into ChatGPT, told it exactly what was going on, and it spit out exactly what I needed to do. Again, the error told me pretty much where the theme file was. So it says, yep, just go to functions requires /utils.php on line 47. This is being redeclared. Basically, what had happened was we built a custom theme for this client before I started at this company, so years ago. And WordPress came out with a new version, I believe it was 6.8, that duplicated one of the functions that we had in that theme file. So it was redundant and breaking in that regard. So basically, ChatGPT just said that and gave me exactly what I needed to do, which was just wrap it in a check to make sure, and it will say if this function already exists, then ignore this. Otherwise, run this array find function. And so I went into that file, copied it, pasted it in, hit save, and we were back in business. Again, that's something that I could absolutely do myself. The error was pretty verbose as to what the problem was, but if it wasn't for ChatGPT, I would have to go and Google what is the fix for this. Obviously, this is a duplicate function. Do I remove it? Do I wrap it in something else? And that would have taken me significantly more time. I probably would have had to browse through Stack Overflow, get yelled at a couple of times, or watch somebody else get yelled at a couple times for asking a question that had already been asked. Instead, I just used ChatGPT, my senior dev, and it tells me exactly what to replace it with. And in 7 minutes, I was going back to my manager saying, hey, this is fixed. And I look like a genius. So there you go, guys. 2 real life examples of how I use ChatGPT in my actual job as a web developer or as a WordPress developer, where I am fixing problems that I otherwise didn't know how to solve and saving myself tons of time in the process. Stick around, come back to the channel for more examples like that. I'll post them as soon as they happen to me in real life. I love posting examples like that just to give you guys a taste of how you can use ChatGPT in real life as a developer. Take care, guys. See you next time.